Stop telling yourself they don't know any better. They know exactly what they're doing. They aren't stumbling into your boundaries by accident, they are poking at them to see if they'll bend. Manipulation doesn't start with a takeover, it starts with a test. It starts with that tiny, innocent comment that makes you second-guess your own memory, or that late-night text they know you'll answer even though you said you were sleeping. They aren't looking for a partner, they're looking for a permit. Every time you let it slide to keep the peace, you aren't being the bigger person, you're handing them the blueprint to your emotional triggers. You're teaching them that your no actually means maybe, and your maybe means, if you push hard enough, I'll fold. They don't gain control by force, they gain it by your exhaustion. They wait for you to get tired of fighting, tired of explaining, and tired of being the only one who cares. The moment you decide to be understanding, instead of being respected, the test is over. They didn't steal your power. You gave them permission to take it. It starts so small you almost miss it. It's that one joke at your expense that felt a little too sharp, but when you flinched, they told you that you were being sensitive. So, you laughed it off. You gave them the green light. That was the first test. You signaled that your comfort is negotiable as long as they're having a good time. Watch how they handle your no. When you tell a manipulator you can't do something, they don't just accept it. They negotiate. They forget. They wait an hour and ask again in a different way, or they start acting distant until you feel so guilty for having a boundary that you end up apologizing for it. You think you're being flexible, but you're actually being trained. You're being taught that saying no comes with a price, a cold shoulder, a fight, or a long, exhausting lecture about why you're being unfair. Think about the way you've started to pre-clear your own life. You find yourself thinking, if I tell them I'm going out with my friends, they're going to get annoyed, so I'll just stay home. You aren't even being controlled by them anymore, you're controlling yourself for them. You've internalized their expectations so deeply that they don't even have to ask you to stay, you've already locked the door from the inside. They're testing your memory, too. They'll say something cruel and then, 2 days later, deny they ever said it. They'll look you right in the eye and say, I never promised that, even though you have the text to prove it. But you don't show them the text. You don't want the drama. You decide to let it go because you're tired. That's the exact moment they win. They didn't just change the facts, they changed your willingness to stand by the truth. You've given them permission to rewrite your reality because you'd rather have a fake peace than a real conflict. You've become an expert at reading their moods while they remain completely indifferent to yours. You're walking on eggshells, trying to anticipate their next move, while they're just sitting back and watching how much more weight you're willing to carry before you break. They aren't learning how to treat you, they're learning what you'll put up with. The permission dynamic is where the real damage happens, and we need to be incredibly honest about why you're still standing there. You've been calling it patience, but let's call it what it actually is. You're shrinking your soul to fit into the narrow space they've left for you. They aren't trying to grow with you. They are building a world where they can predict exactly how much you'll tolerate before you finally break. To them, your independent thoughts and your self-worth aren't qualities to love, they're obstacles that need to be managed. Every time they push a boundary and see you stay, they aren't thinking, I'm so lucky to have someone so understanding. They're thinking, great, the limit is even further than I thought. If you've explained the same basic respect 10 times and you're gearing up for version 11, stop. They aren't confused. They're just measuring your exhaustion. They aren't listening to your words, they're watching to see if your actions ever actually match your no. And that empathy of yours? It's your best quality, but they've turned it into a leash. The second you try to hold them accountable, they pull out a story or a struggle, and you fold. You stop being their partner and start being their emotional shock absorber, making excuses for them that they haven't even bothered to think of. You've given them a permanent pass to mistreat you, and it's turned you into the difficult one the moment you dare to ask for the bare minimum. If you have to beg for basic decency more than twice, it's not a misunderstanding. It's a character choice. By staying and waiting for them to finally see you, you're renewing their permit every single day. You're telling them they can treat you like an option while you treat them like the center of your universe. You are teaching them that your dignity has a discount price, and as long as they provide a little bit of affection or a half-hearted apology, the store is back open for business. The permission ends when the silence starts. You don't need a big closing speech or a final letter to make sure they understand. If you're still trying to get them to see your side, you're still giving them power over your reality. They use your need for closure as a way to keep the door cracked open just enough to slide back in when they need something. The only way to win is to walk away from the table. You aren't being cold. You aren't being too much. You're just finally respecting yourself enough to revoke the permit once and for all. You have to realize that you cannot talk someone into valuing you if they've already decided that your value is based on how much you can endure. Stop asking for a seat at a table where you aren't respected. Stop looking for a why when the what is standing right in front of you. They took the permission you gave them and used it to build a cage. Now, it's time to take that permission back and realize the door was never actually locked, you were just waiting for them to give you the key they never intended to hand over. The hardest part of this isn't admitting they manipulated you, it's admitting you let them. But here's the thing, you didn't do it because you're weak. You did it because you're a person who actually keeps their word, and you assumed they were doing the same. You gave them the benefit of the doubt until you were completely out of doubt and only left with the benefit of their chaos. It's time to stop looking at the potential of who they could be and start looking at the reality of who they are when they think no one is watching. Revoking permission doesn't require a blowout fight. In fact, the most powerful thing you can do is become completely unreactive. When they try that same old test, the guilt trip, the silent treatment, the subtle jab, don't lean in to fix it. Let the silence sit there. Let it be awkward. When you stop rushing in to bridge the gap they created, you finally see how wide that gap actually is. You've been the one doing all the emotional heavy lifting, and the second you drop your end of the rope, the whole thing collapses. Let it collapse. You weren't holding a relationship together, you were holding a hostage situation in place. You have to realize that you are the one who sets the price of admission to your life. If the price is total access to my peace of mind for the cost of zero effort, then of course they're staying. They've got a great deal. But the sale is over. You are allowed to change the terms of the agreement. You are allowed to say, "I'm not doing this anymore," without providing a 3-page essay on why. Your why is that you're tired. Your why is that you deserve to wake up without a knot in your stomach wondering which version of them you're going to get today. The moment you take back that permission, they will probably spiral. They'll call you cold, or heartless, or say you never cared. That's just the final test. They're trying to see if that old, good person guilt still works. Don't fall for it. The best version of you isn't the one who tolerates everything, it's the one who knows when to walk away. You aren't losing them, you're finding the person you were before they convinced you that you needed their permission to exist. Here's the truth that's going to sting, but you need to hear it: the person you're trying to save or fix is currently using your hope as a weapon against you. They know you have a vision of who they could be, and they use that version of themselves like a carrot on a stick to keep you running in circles. Every time you think you've reached a breakthrough, they reel you back in with just enough kindness to make you stay. But look at your hands, they're empty. You've been chasing a ghost while the real person in front of you is perfectly comfortable watching you fall apart. It's time to stop being the keeper of their potential and start being the keeper of your own reality. You keep waiting for a sign that they finally get it, but the sign is already there in the way they treat your tears like an inconvenience. The sign is in the way they only show up for you when it's convenient for them, or when they feel you starting to drift away. That's not love, that's maintenance. They are maintaining their access to you, not building a connection. When you finally decide to walk away, don't do it to get a reaction out of them. If you leave just to see if they'll chase you, you're still giving them permission to dictate your value. You have to leave because you've realized that your presence is a privilege that they have consistently disrespected. You have to be okay with them never understanding your side. In their story, you will always be the one who gave up, and you have to let them be wrong about you. Their opinion of you is none of your business anymore. The real shift happens when you realize that you don't need their closure to heal. Closure is something you give yourself when you decide that you've had enough. It's the moment you stop asking, "Why did they do this?" and start asking, "Why did I allow it for so long?" That's not about blame, it's about power. If you were the one who gave the permission, you are the only one who can take it back. You aren't losing a partner, you're losing a burden. The moment you revoke that permission, the air finally changes. You aren't just getting over someone, you're reclaiming the territory they occupied for way too long. From now on, your "no" is a finished sentence. You don't owe anyone a map to your triggers or a manual on how to be a decent human being. If they don't get it, they don't get you. Period. The new standard is simple: you only invest where there's a return on respect. You stop apologizing for having standards and start realizing that being difficult is often just what manipulators call people they can't control anymore. Wear that label like a badge of honor. You've taken the keys back, locked the door, and for the first time in a long time, you're safe. You didn't just survive the test, you ended the game.